Alrighty, this is going to be the first video of the channel. Just something that I seen on YouTube. I know that this topic is a little bit of controversy as far as adults going to Disneyland where it used to be for children, and I still think it should be for children personally. But letting my bias aside, we'll watch this video and see what points were made.
Walk around a Disney park today and you'd expect to see excited children dragging their parents from ride to ride. Instead, you'll see adult enthusiasts running everywhere, screaming, driving around on mobility scooters, documenting every inch of their experience on TikTok. These are Disney adults. And here they are in their natural habitat, riding scooters around at just 20 years old because they can't walk, eating about 5 desserts in one day.
Now I'm gonna say, me personally, I think it's cringe. Seeing full-grown adults doing or participating in a particular park like Disneyland, right? Uh, Reenacting their childhood essentially. It's been a while since I've been to Disneyland myself. I think the last time I went was probably when I was like 10 years old, 15 years old, maybe, I want to say. Um, yeah, I haven't been to Disneyland in a long time. However, though, I've seen a lot of clips on social media, TikTok, right, of these people. I guess it just can't get away from the childhood. Whether that be from trauma, I don't know. I personally can't relate, but I do think it's one of the most cringiest things I have ever seen.
To the tune of 10,000 calories, crying at random stuff in the streets. Childless adults now outnumber families at the parks. Some visit hundreds of times a year. Some even quit.
Oh my god, that's insane. That's totally true. I've heard of people having passes where they'll go multiple times a year. My question is, what do you get out of that? Like, after being, I don't know, maybe I understand maybe the first time isn't enough, right, to see all the attractions. Um, but after the second time, like you're telling me you have to go 10, 20 times a year? Some people even go more. That's insane.
Their jobs and relocate to Orlando to go every single day. And it might just be funny.
Oh my god. Every single day. There's people that go every single day to Disneyland. I that's in my opinion absurd. What are they doing? What are they doing? Going every single day. What is there to do at a park every single day like that? I can't even imagine going to my local park every single day. To do what? To like what?
On the surface, it might just seem like some stupid, immature people, but it all begins to fall into place when you realize that Disney is an empire, one that spread its roots further and wider than any other company in history. It's consumed some of the most beloved franchises in modern culture: Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, The Simpsons, Indiana Jones, and swallowed up media giants like 20th Century Fox, ABC, ESPN, National Geographic, and Hulu, all absorbed into one giant corporate ecosystem. They also operate 12 theme parks worldwide, a
And that is fair, right? That's a fair statement. Although I will say it follows a trend, right? All these acquisitions were with industries that cater to children. That doesn't explain necessarily why these full-grown adults are participating in these activities, right? I understand they have kids, but if you're going every single day, right? Well, your children got to be going to school. These people are solely doing it for themselves, and it's honestly concerning why that's a thing. But let's see what it says.
fleet of cruise ships, and an entire planned residential community in Florida. Its combined properties attract over 150 million visitors a year, more than any other major attraction on the planet by an order of magnitude. Even if you don't realize it, you barely go a single day without encountering something Disney owns. The films and programs we stream, the shows that kids everywhere watch in the morning, the merchandise in the shop window, the theme park advert on your feed. And like every empire, Disney has its castles and, most importantly for its survival, its subjects. Because the most valuable thing that Disney owns can't be found on their balance sheet. Instead, it's the loyalty of millions of adults who don't just enjoy Disney, but embrace it with every fiber of their being, where Disney has truly become their religion. Now, the analogy of
Now, why would Disney have become their religion? That would be my question, right? To me, it seems like maybe it's a lack of morals. Like, why would something like this cater to adults when it's meant for children? I don't know how to explain that personally.
Disney adults as the subjects of the Empire works so well because this is a fantasy universe manufactured for subservience. And if you want to make anyone subservient to your brand, rich, generally middle class adults without any religion are usually the holy grail. The overwhelming
Oh, he just said it right out there. No religion. These people are without religion. Interesting. I personally am religious, so it's kind of hard to see something else taking that place, right? But I guess I can kind of understand looking at someone that maybe doesn't have, something to turn to, a higher power, that they would turn to something like this. But it's still cringe, regardless. Still cringe.
majority of Disney adults are just white, college-educated North Americans, many of whom spend up to $10,000 a year on just Disney alone. And a lot of the time, most are spending considerably more.
It's gonna be about 4,000 for 2 days.
About $35,000.
You can easily burn through $1,000 in a single day at the parks without even doing anything extravagant. A Disney cruise can set you back more than a fortnight in Southeast Asia, and yet
Oh my God. The amount of money these people spend, right? And I want to go back to, I guess, the religious factor. Again, I think these people are trying to relive their childhood, not necessarily just trying to find a religious aspect of it, but they're trying to relive their childhood, and they're paying huge amounts of money to do so. Literally, right here, right? A short cruise, $1,300 and $1,900 per person, 3 to 5 nights. Like, you don't even get a full week. You can take a simple cruise down to Mexico, Ensenada, right? Catalina. You got 5 nights there for $300 to $400 a person. Okay. You get everything that comes with a cruise, right? Most of everything is paid for. But no, you'd rather spend $1,300 to $1,900 because it's a Disney cruise. That's insane. 10 plus nights can run you anywhere between $3,000 to $8,000. And the amount of money these people spend too. Like that lady before, $35,000. Lady, some people make that in a year. Like, this is the yearly salary. And you're spending it on Disneyland. These people are the ones that are going to be living on the system well after they're able to work or bring in income. I'm sorry. They might be middle class now. They won't be for long.
Yet for most, it's the only holiday they take. So think about what that really means. These are people with the money and freedom to go anywhere in the world, to explore different cultures, try new experiences, and see things that might genuinely challenge or change them. But instead, people just seem to come again and again to the same place, again and again. Not because they've weighed up their options, but because nothing else even occurs to them. Some will even go into huge debt to maintain their Disney addiction, even when their salaries don't stretch far enough to cover it.
That's ridiculous. Going into debt for Disneyland. Or Disney, I guess, in general. But it's not just Disneyland, it's the cruises, right? That's my word.
So the passes were $2,000
For the both of us.
For
What?
both of us.
For fucking what? You spent $1,000 on just being at Disney on here. $1,000 just on the Disney crap
I mean,
for a day, for 1 day.
Some
You just said these people can't justify it. That's the thing, right? And I get it. Like, some hobbies, you really can't justify them to a certain degree, right? Down to the point, oh, they make me happy, right? But most hobbies aren't costing you $35,000 a year, let alone maybe even say $4,000 a year, right? Depending on the hobby. Obviously, I understand there's some expensive hobbies out there, right? But you're getting the same thing back, right? It's not like you're experiencing something new or adding something to your memories. You're experiencing the same thing, right? Say your choice is to go on these cruises, it's gonna be the same thing, just a different time, right? Whereas if your hobby is hiking, rock climbing, there's different areas, different places you can do that. So you're getting different experiences versus this, there's nothing new in it. Nothing new at all. It's the same thing. Maybe it's for the status. Maybe it's, hey, we did Disney this year, right? I don't know. I know people do some crazy things for status, so that could be what this is. It's just crazy to me.
Don't just visit regularly. They restructure their entire lives around proximity to the parks. From there, you can visit every day if you want, and some people practically do.
How does visiting nearly 3,000 times sound? Well, that has been done by this man, Jeff Wrights. He started visiting the park every day in 2012.
Think about how the rulers of ancient empires made their money. They owned the land, controlled the culture, and dictated traditions and rituals, and the subjects paid for the privilege. Disney has achieved something remarkably similar in our
3,000 times. I wonder if that's like in his lifetime. Has to be, right? Because yeah, it's got to be in his lifetime, right? There's no way he could have done 3,000 in a year. There's not even 3,000 days in a year. So lifetime, 3,000 times. Hey, that man can say he's seen the progression of the parks. He has seen the park grow. We'll say that. Let's put it that way, I guess.
world, and it's getting stronger every single year. Disney adults naturally date other Disney adults through dedicated dating sites because who else?
That makes so much sense. I can't imagine, right? Someone trying to date somebody, and all that their significant other can do is want to go and spend thousands of dollars at Disney while they're trying to plan for their future. That wouldn't work, right? That makes so much sense. And dating sites for Disney fans? What sites are these? That's crazy that people have actually, they're making money off these people in other ways too, I guess. Makes sense. There's a market for it.
Would understand.
Didn't we find a Disney adult dating site?
We did. We did.
I mean, that shows you that you can find somebody in this world.
You can get married.
Christina's disappointment, man. I'm right there with her. I'm right there. I'm curious why they didn't say the name for this dating site. That I've never heard of such a site. Not that I would be looking for it. I just, wow. Okay.
In front of the castle, you can get married in the Haunted Mansion, and instead of a traditional tiara, some Disney adults choose bespoke pieces to get married in, like these Mickey Mouses made in collaboration with some of the world's most premium brands.
See, that's more than just, a special moment. That's an identity. You've moved past having a special moment with your spouse. You've essentially brought an identity other than yourself, right? You've adapted the Disney identity. If you're going to get married at Disneyland, right, you're gonna wear these tiaras or whatever, like for the ear shapes, all that stuff. Like, oh wow, it's an identity thing.
Like Vera Wang, honeymoons, also Disney, or maybe a Disney cruise. And if you're now thinking this must be as far as it goes, then you haven't heard of Golden Oak. Golden Oak is essentially for the boss level Disney adult. It's the most extreme form of constructing your life around Disney. It is a community within Disney World itself, made up of eye-wateringly expensive mansions that start at around $10 million. Homes are built to Disney spec with statues and paintings of characters in the gardens and on the walls, floors, and ceilings. So now we have homes, holidays, and relationships.
These have to be damaged people, right? People that are maybe looking for safety, security. They want to live in a fantasy, right? I mean, more power to them. If they have $10 million to spend on a home with ugly architecture inside, right? Ugly design. You're going to have a bunch of Disney stuff looking inside. Like, more power to them. But again, I think it points to more of an illness, more of a, you know, I guess a traumatic childhood for them to do this as adults. Yeah.
It's all inside the Disney universe. So what's left? Identity itself. Disney doesn't actually allow adults to wear full costumes to the parks. That's reserved for
Oh, that's so gonna change, man. That will so change. I especially if the demographic is shifting, right? To these adults taking over the park and all these events, it will change 100%. I mean, Disney would be stupid to not, right? Oh my god, I could just imagine what parks will start looking like. These adults start dressing up too.
children, so employees dressed as characters remain the only real versions. So Disney bounding means dressing to evoke a character without technically being in costume. Now the word means that these people are bound for Disney, headed that way to evade the costume police, but it portrays a deeper truth. These adults are both bound by Disney, a soft, comfortable cage that poses no challenges, and they are bound to Disney. They eschew individual identity and bolt themselves onto these characters instead. And then there's the most disturbing ritual of all, one that came to light through horrified employees. As you can see throughout this video, we use a lot of stock footage. And one thing that never really gets talked about with video creation is just how much time gets burned
Okay, he's got an ad going on here. We'll just watch through it.
finding the right assets. Not just the editing, but hunting for the footage, the music, the sound effects, graphics, all across different sites. Which is why I'm proud to say this video is sponsored by Storyblocks. We've been using them throughout all of these videos for years, because Storyblocks gives you unlimited downloads of really high quality stock media with just a simple monthly subscription. There's no per asset fees, no surprise licensing issues, just access to everything in one place. And that includes 4K and HD video, music, sound effects, images, templates, and motion graphics. All created by real artists, not just generic filler content. Which is why the footage actually feels authentic, not like stock you've seen hundreds of times before. And because it's unlimited, you can browse through and collect interesting footage that helps you tell compelling stories like we've been doing in this video you're watching right now. With Storyblocks, you can try different edits, test ideas, swap music, change pacing without ever worrying that every download costs extra. It also just saves you a ton of time if you make videos, as Storyblocks members save an average of 3.5 hours a week, especially with things like pre-made templates and motion graphics you can drop straight into Premiere Pro or After Effects. And everything you download from Storyblocks is royalty-free and fully licensed, so you're protected forever. Which is why if
I love advertisements.
you need unlimited stock media at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/moon or click the link in the description below. Disney adults often choose Disneyland as the final resting place for the remains of their loved ones. Employees have taken
What? Hold on. Disney fans want their ashes spread at the park? It's a forbidden ritual. Okay. I didn't read that thing all the way through. That would be so disturbing to think, right? Oh my god. Well, let's see if something's changed, because this was 2024.
choose Disneyland as the final resting place for the remains of their loved ones. Employees have taken to social media to admit that they regularly have to go and clean the ashes of a dead person.
Oh my god. Okay. Ban these people, right? Get these people out of here. Don't let them go into the parks meant for our kids. Why in the world are these people like this? I get it, right? Someone's favorite place was Disneyland. They want their ashes to be there. Okay, I understand the desire for it. Why in the world are these people doing it? Especially if it's banned. It's not allowed. Not necessarily. I don't know if it's banned. It's just prohibited, right? I guess that's what that would mean. Oh my god, they had to clean up the ashes.
One custodian told the Journal the Haunted Mansion probably has so much human ashes in it that it's not even funny. Now, custodians told the Wall Street Journal that the job requires a special vacuum cleaner, which comes out at least once a month.
Disneyland.
A special vacuum cleaner. A special vacuum cleaner. Okay, that's a pause it for a sec. That's insane. A special vacuum cleaner. Like, what? I'm just kind of bewildered. I wonder what that looks like. What does it mean? A special vacuum cleaner, like one to prohibit like the biohazard contamination or something? My God.
And is now recognized as one of the most popular places on Earth to scatter ashes. Employees receive special training on how to clean ashes. The company even has a
Special
code
training.
word Grandma to alert employees that more ashes need to be
Oh, Grandma. What in the world? Okay. I'm sorry. It's just disturbing to me.
cleaned. While it's quite morbid for us to think that these people's ashes are being vacuumed up by a 17-year-old on minimum wage and dumped in a bin with leftover turkey drumsticks, for Disney adults it's a fitting end to a Disney life. So from birthdays to weddings to death, every stage of life channeled through the same corporation. The psychoanalyst Erich Fromm called this automaton conformity, the idea that people escape the anxiety of freedom by adopting pre-packaged identities. You don't have to figure out who you are.
What did I say, right? It's an identity, right? They're trying to relive that wedding thing, right? Where instead of them being themselves, I can kind of excuse, right, wanting to get married at Disneyland because obviously, oh, Disneyland's a magical place, right? Weddings for especially, you know, the brides, it's magical for them, right? A lot of them at least. So I can kind of understand that to a degree, right? The magical castle, all this stuff, right? The romance of it. But when you start putting on, you know, the Mickey Mouse ears and things like that, that's an identity crisis. They can't accept themselves. They got to adopt this Disneyland identity. You know, it's illness. In my opinion, it's an illness. You see it with individuals that had, you know, childhood trauma, right, abandonment or abuse, right? You see a lot of that in these kind of individuals. Not saying necessarily, you know, these Disneyland individuals, but you see it with victims, right, that come from, you know, past like that. So it makes me think these people are trying to feel protected, trying to feel safe. But let's see what he says.
If someone's already done it for you. You don't have to face the terror of choice if the choices have already been made. This is exactly what Disney offers, a full identity off of the shelf. Your character, your aesthetic, your community, all handed to you in a gift shop bag. They go so far as to engineer the physical environment to make sure it sticks. The parks use patented scent cannons, called smellitzers, hidden in walls and vents, firing specific fragrances at you hundreds of times a day. The olfactory system, meaning your sense of smell, connects directly to the brain regions for emotion and memory, which is
that is so manipulative. And I've heard of this. I heard of this years ago that Disneyland did this. Not that I ever realized it when I went as a child. But that's insane. That's actually crazy to think that they use those tactics to get you to you know, to appeal to your emotions and stuff. It's kind of dark, and I know Walt Disney was not that good of a guy, so I wonder how far this really goes back. You know.
Exactly why Disney invested so heavily in scent engineering. There are also over 30,000 unique paint colors across the parks, including a shade called Go Away Green, specific.
You know, you hear about this too with like casinos and stuff. I mean, people have spent millions, maybe billions, I don't know for sure, but they spent a lot of money in investing on how to appeal to people's psychology. You know, it's actually really crazy. And you look at like, Disney's not the only one that does this, right? Car manufacturers do the same. They spend millions on researching how a door closes or how a trunk closes, right? To appeal to someone's sense of, you know, oh, this is more expensive than it is. So Disney's not the only one that does this kind of stuff, but it is pretty sick when you look into it, really, to manipulate, you know, people.
Designed to make infrastructure invisible to guests. The background music in the morning is fast and exciting. Evening music slows down to make you linger and shop, so the brainwashing extends from the physical environment and
We're Phoenix Energy.
Oh, we got an ad. We got an ad. Okay, we'll skip this
Company
one.
focused on unleashing American oil from North Dakota and
No, thank you.
Parks, which still constitutes the vast majority of Disney's profits, to its sprawling digital empire of content and franchises. They started handing each film to a different director with a different vision and no shared outline. For Star Wars, they spent 2 films building up the villain Snoke, then killed him off with no explanation, and then patched it over with somehow Palpatine return.
Oh, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. Yeah, Disney has definitely messed up a lot of these franchises. Not that I can speak to like, Star Wars because I've never really watched Star Wars, but I've heard so many bad things with Disney messing these franchises up that it's not even funny. It's just insane.
A line so lazy it became a meme as soon as the credits rolled. Then there was the infamous Snow White, which we've made tons of videos on before. Hundreds of millions were spent on a remake where the lead called the original weird and the princess stalker.
With a guy who
That's why I've never seen this movie. I have never seen this movie because of her. Rachel Ziegler, whatever her name is. I think, yeah. Good luck to her.
literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
While the romance was gutted in favor of God.
We didn't do that this time. We didn't stick to this original story, Yeah, that's why I didn't watch it.
Boss leadership arcs nobody asked for, where the dwarfs were replaced with CGI and it completely bombed and everybody hated it, completely desecrating the original loved one. There's a pattern across everything Disney touches now, where ideology takes priority.
Mulan was actually a decent movie, I will say. I didn't have really too big of an issue with that movie. Buzz Lightyear actually wasn't horrible. I do understand the critiques of it, but it wasn't that bad of a movie.
Over storytelling. We've seen it with the conflicts in politics in Florida with just the parks alone, but also in movies and TV, characters are constantly rewritten to represent something, where villains have become straw.
She-Hulk or whatever that show is. I don't even know what it's called. I think that's an abomination. Yeah.
Men for whatever ideological message the writers want to push. The old Disney movies at least told universal stories about love, loss, courage, and fear that could touch everyone. Now even Bob Iger himself had to publicly admit that Disney had been putting, quote, messaging over storytelling, and that he would finally no longer tolerate it.
Messaging over storytelling. That, I wonder. This is actually something I've never really thought about, right? When it comes to their customer base now, right? Being more adults than children. Maybe that's their goal, right? To try to push messaging. Because when you think about Disney and its content, usually it's supposed to be for children. Like that's what it's been for a long time, right? So it makes sense that, they would do storytelling, keep the children entertained. But now that they're pushing messaging, right? Who do they really see their clientele as? Do they see their clients as, grown people, or do they see them as children still? That would be concerning if they still see them as children, which they are children. Disney movies and shows are supposed to be for children. They always have been. Why would that change, right? Although, to be fair, like when we're talking about Disneyland, all these adults going, right? So, yeah, I guess so. If you have, majority of your people watching that are now adults, not children, I guess you would want to appeal to them with a message instead of a storytelling, quote unquote.
When the CEO of a company is saying that out loud, you know the rot has gone deep. But Disney adults, as visible and extreme as they are, only represent the most obvious layer. They're the ones who wear their loyalty openly, but many of us contribute too, and often without realizing we're doing it. Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar fans didn't sign up for Disney. Disney just comes for all of us. If you probably watch anything on TV, it's coming for you. When Disney buys these companies, it acquires fandoms. Entire generations of people who had built deep emotional connections to these franchises suddenly found themselves at the company's mercy. And in some cases...
Yeah. That one event with Tony, Robert Downey Jr. coming out, like he's coming back to the Marvel universe, was a pretty cool scene. But yeah, these other people, dressing up and stuff, yeah, people just trying to relive their childhood, really.
The result has been nothing short of vandalism, as we saw with the failed Star Wars movies and series, or the constant Marvel reruns that seem to get worse and worse and worse, let alone all the countless other franchises ruined in the blatant crusade of profit extraction. Now, you might roll your eyes at a grown woman sobbing over Goofy or Mickey Mouse, but Disney is an all-consuming beast that might destroy something you love eventually. We've mentioned it many times with films like Snow White, as this all tells us the most insidious thing about how the company
Please tell me something they haven't already destroyed to a degree. I'd love to see. I'd love to see what they haven't touched yet.
operates. It isn't purely extrinsic, something bottled onto modern culture from the outside. It's intrinsic to our memories, our feelings, our sense of what safety and happiness mean. A company whose influence has grown inside of us since childhood. And it starts with something most of us completely underestimate. I mean, just think about some iconic Disney moments. Different films, different decades, different characters, but the same feeling. That warmth in your chest, that tug backwards to somewhere safe and simple. And don't get me wrong, in many cases, there is great cinema with Disney. The mere existence of Disney adults doesn't negate everything Disney has ever done. This is a company that captures something universal about childhood.
No, but it's the evolution, right? It's the evolution. So, yeah, you know, it doesn't negate everything they've done, but it taints it, right? Because it's evolved into this nasty deformity.
The wonder, the safety, the simplicity, the beauty, the innocence, and put into words and pictures in a way nobody has ever done before. And that turned out to be the recipe for insane success. It allowed America's soft power to expand across the world. And there's a word for the feeling Disney films try so hard to create, and it's older and more powerful than most people ever realize. Nostalgia. And it comes from two ancient Greek words.
Yeah, I understand where he's going with this, right? Nostalgia. But it's more than that, right? Because I think we all have nostalgia for certain things, right? From our childhood. But they're actively trying to relive it. And to the point where you're going, 3,000 times in your lifetime, going every single day to the point where, hey, you're going to move and uproot your life and your family's life to go and participate in these theme parks and these events and stuff. It's more than nostalgia. That's more than nostalgia. 100%. Right? So I wouldn't necessarily say it's just nostalgia. It's not. You're taking on a new identity, right? And I don't know. I'm honestly a loss of words for that because I don't see it as just nostalgia. I don't. Mental illness. Personally, that's how I see it, at least.
Nostos meaning to return home, and algos meaning pain. It was actually coined as a medical diagnosis in the 17th century to describe the crippling homesickness of Swiss soldiers fighting abroad who longed for their homeland so desperately that some became physically ill. Nostalgia isn't happiness, it's closer to a kind of grief, a yearning for something you once had or think you had that you can never fully return to. And that's what makes it so commercially potent. If the feeling were wholly satisfying, you'd experience it once and move on. But nostalgia pulls you back again and again because it never quite delivers what it promises. Disney enthusiasts are suspended in that nostalgia cycle and it's highly addictive. We all probably reminisce about childhood or when we were young and nothing mattered, but Disney positioned itself to capitalize on that wistful emotion. Of course, Disney didn't invent nostalgia, but they were the first to understand how essential it is to our human experience. They recognized
Yo, your mail's here.
We
Wait,
got another
why does it say
ad.
Settlement enclosed.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Okay.
it as an unresolved
$25,000 for an accident. Please. Actually, no, it did go up here in California. It did, huh? Forgot about that one.
need. And if you could make yourself the answer to its calling, you'd make people dependable. The fertile ground for this was childhood. That's where our deepest emotional connections are formed. And for a company whose long-term survival depended on those connections lasting well beyond childhood, their work had to start there. So Disney invested enormous resources into understanding how children form emotional bonds. Psychological research into their emotional drivers, how they interpret symbols, what feels authentic versus manufactured. They used those findings to calibrate their films with specific color palettes, certain music intervals, and certain narrative beats, all to create maximum emotional resonance into.
This goes to the point that not everything is as innocent as it appears to be, right? the things that seem innocent never are. And this goes to show that, right? Where, hey, they just made a really good soundtrack for this movie, right? Everything was, it went with the beat, it went together well, right? They did a great, really good job. They did a great job. But as he's saying, I mean, they pour millions of dollars into research on how to affect people psychologically. It should be illegal. Really? Like, how gross is that?
Developing brains. We associate a lot of this work with big tech, but Disney, funnily enough, was there first. Before the 90s and 2000s, the big commercial problem was still that children's films, even the most successful ones, don't turn a company into a conglomerate. Disney's parks were making the serious money. But while you can hook children in with films while they're young, they aren't the ones with money to spend at the parks. They needed to tap into that adult money. And look at Walt Disney himself explaining this.
Were your films principally designed for children?
Well, no, you have to appeal to the adult, or, the adults have the money, the children don't have any money.
Bruh, I'm just getting chills looking at this dude talk. These billionaires, they truly run society a different way than you really ever will see, right? This guy wasn't a good guy. You look into him, he just wasn't, right? He didn't like children, yet he built parks for children, right? Oh, just disturbing, really. And like I said, gotta appeal to where the money is. So they target the money. They target the parents.
So they had to crack adulthood, and luckily, an early Disney movie, Peter Pan, provided the perfect solution. You have to stop people from growing up. Disney later summed up the strategy in 2 words, age decompression, and it comes into its own in the last 10 to 20 years. We've been sold the idea that adulthood is a rude awakening, and of course it feels like that sometimes. Work, bill, rent, stress.
It's a rude awakening because life is not easy. Oh my God. So that's just going to get into other political stuff because, in my opinion, I think too many people want to, get rid of their responsibility and just act like children. More and more these days, I feel like grown adults just want to act like children. Let's see where he goes with this one because I have really strong opinions when it comes to individuals not wanting to take responsibility.
Disappointment in friendships, relationships. In this real world, people don't burst into song on the street unless they're intoxicated or going through some sort of mental crises. Strangers glare at you for making eye contact. You spend your days in cramped flat shares, walking concrete streets, working in glass offices. Not extraordinary places bursting with color and life. This isn't what you were promised throughout childhood. You're a princess, a prince, a chosen one, just waiting to be discovered. But the problem is that when you treat adults like children long enough, they start to behave like them. The infantilization of culture is now endemic to society. It's my safe space.
This is why people need to get married, in my opinion, right? When you have people that don't feel they have self-worth, right? Feel like they don't have a purpose. Yeah, they have this mindset that the world is so dark and so evil and so angry, right? Which, don't get me wrong, there's a place for that, for sure, right? There's a lot of evil outside in the world. You got to find the light, right? And I think that's where marriage comes in, right? You have somebody there no matter what by your side, being your spouse. Your friends, the rest of the world isn't going to necessarily be there for you. But that's why I think marriage is important. And I feel like so many people, they try to find that peace somewhere else. And it results in them being Disney fanatics, spending thousands of dollars, $35,000 a year, going 3,000 times or whatever it was, right?
Protecting my energy. This is my self-care. We've built an entire vocabulary.
Self-care. Oh my God. See, more buzzwords, right? Self-care. I'm loving myself. That's not what we were meant to be, right? Yeah, you have to care for yourself, right? But that's not what we're meant to do. We're meant to care for each other, right? That's why it's important to marry. Find that significant other. Care for them with everything you have. And that's where your happiness will be. That's why these people are never happy. That's why I guess they go 3,000 times. They spend thousands of dollars every year, right? Because they're trying to find the happiness They ain't finding it. They won't find it.
around retreating from challenges and wrapped it in the language of mental health, which makes it impossible to question. If someone says Disney is their safe space, what are you gonna do? Tell them that their feelings are wrong, attacking their coping mechanism? You'd sound like a monster. And that's the shield. Corporations
I'll be the monster. No worries, I'll be the monster.
love this because a customer who believes they need your product for their emotional well-being and life is a customer for life. So what do you do when adult life just does feel too intense? Well, you go back to your safe place. Now we all turn to our favorite form of escapism when we're in a rough patch. Some play the video games they played as kids or cook food they had as kids. It's okay to escape occasionally. But when manufactured on an empire global corporate level, escaping becomes a trap it's sub.
I will say, ever since I had gotten married, playing video games, things like that. Don't get me wrong, I still watch like some TV and stuff, but like playing games, I can't remember the last time I touched a video game. Right? Like getting married changes a lot of that, and a lot of people will put that as a negative thing. Oh, you're giving up your freedoms, you're changing as an individual, right? I've even lost some friends, I will say, after I got married. That's because I didn't really, not that I didn't need them. Obviously, friends are good to have, but they become less important in your life, right? Because now you have a significant other that you share everything with, that they're always there with you. It's just a healthier, better for you life experience than these other alternatives, right? That will never be long-lasting happiness, right? And that's what a lot of these people lack, in my opinion. Yeah, they might have, a boyfriend, girlfriend, but they're still looking. They're still looking for quote-unquote happiness. Instead of looking at what they already have, they're trying to find something more.
Subjects willfully live in because the alternative is too frightening. Ever since childhood, they've been made long-term, lifelong.
Oh, another ad.
I'm only 40.
40?
Your heart
Sure?
health risk is no
Look
way
50.
to the world.
Long consumers. The psychoanalyst Erich Fromm called this automaton conformity, the idea that people escape the anxiety of freedom by adopting pre-packaged identities. You don't have to figure out who you are if someone's already done it for you. You don't have to face the terror of choice if the choices have already been made. So in this sense, escapism might be the biggest misnomer of the century. People are going to the same place, consuming the same stories, riding the same rides, wearing the same ears year after year. There's no...
Yeah, see that right there. And I wonder if he's going to go more into that, because it's like, how do you justify that, right? Doing the same thing over and over. Where's the justification in that? It just to quote unquote be happy, to find happiness or protection or peace or whatever. Like, what?
No true exploration, just the illusion of exploration mirrored in a form that feels safe and easy. You might have heard of Plato's allegory of the cave, which is one of the world's oldest thought experiments. Inside the cave, the prisoners are chained up facing a wall watching shadows flicker in the firelight. They've never been outside to see the real world, and the shadows are all they know. So to them, the shadows are the real world. The important bit is what happens when one prisoner finally gets dragged outside. The sunlight is blinding, the real world is overwhelming, confusing, and just too much to process. You might feel like this when you're about to start a real adventure. You might step off the train, plane, or bus in an entirely new place and feel anxious yet excited trepidation. It could also be something like starting a new job, going to a new school, or heading to university for the first time. It's uncomfortable by definition.
The difference in that is, let's take eating a meal, right? You're given the same choice every single day, right? I don't know, right? You're gonna eat eggs and bacon every single day, right? You're feeling excited because you're going to eat, not because it's new. You already know what's coming. That's why to me, it's not. You're going to feel excited because they're going to eat. They feel excited because they're going to the park versus actually going and trying something different or new that they've never had before, that they've never seen before, right? They gotta feel trapped with that, right? I'd go insane. I'd go absolutely insane.
This isn't your comfort zone. This is what makes it an adventure, and eventually you become more comfortable. These are the moments where life happens. But when someone feels thrown into the unknown, their first instinct tends to be that they want to go back. Disney manufactured a fake representation of adventure that keeps people cocooned inside their cave, and honestly, it's kind of evil genius. For the most extreme followers, it made the cave so beautiful, so emotionally optimized, so perfectly calibrated that the real world just could never compete at all. But Plato's point wasn't that the cave is evil, it's that the prisoner who stays there will never know what they're missing. You can't miss a sunset you've never seen, you can't long for depth you've never experienced. The cave doesn't feel like a cage, that's the deeper problem. And this is where this whole video stops being about a story on Disney adults and becomes a story about all of us. Because making us feel comfortable with the cave is the dominant strategy behind social media, behind every streaming service, and lately, generative AI. Every app on your phone is designed around the principle to keep it simple, keep it rewarding, keep them coming back. Swipe right, swipe left, like, subscribe, follow. Don't make anyone think too hard. Don't make anyone wait. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. Reduce every...
The difference in a lot of this... Okay. I'm sorry, I can't take that too seriously because when you look at people going to Disneyland and spending thousands of dollars versus someone sitting on TikTok that's alternatively less expensive, right? Yeah, sure, your time is your money, but if you're spending, say, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes a day on TikTok, what's lost there? If it's your downtime, you've already worked, through the day or whatever, what's lost? Some people have to decompress, right? Instead, these individuals go and spend hundreds, thousands of dollars at these theme parks and thousands of dollars on these cruises, things that they maybe do multiple times a year to experience nothing new, right? It's not comparable, in my opinion. It's just not. You can't negate the fact that Disney makes billions on individuals that are trying to find their childhood, right? Instead of facing the real world and finding happiness in the real things that matter, like marriage, right? Family. They'd rather go spend thousands on looking for this childhood that won't make them happy. But hey,
interaction to its simplest possible form and repeat it infinitely. They create environments where the content is familiar, the rewards are predictable, and the outside world, with all its friction and ambiguity.
I will say that for me, and I know I keep pausing, but he's almost done. The thing is, for me, right? Social media has never been a big part of my life. Do I have social media? Yes. Do I use it? Hardly. I might open it up every once in a while if I have nothing to do, just to see what's on there. But as far as posting, I can't even remember the last time I posted personally. Maybe a couple years ago. It's just, I don't care for social media. And I know there's a lot into that too. And maybe that'll be the next thing I cover is kind of the harm that social media does to us. But it's never appealed to me, right? And it's not something that's changed after I'd got married. But it's yeah, I know there's psychological things with social media as well. And again, I'll probably cover that. Kind of gave me an idea for the next video I'm going to make. But yeah, I just can't equate social media to, say, Disneyland, a place that will suck you dry, right? Will take all your money and leave you with nothing, right? It's not going to leave you with new experiences. For the first time, great. Second time, hey, maybe you didn't catch everything. Even doing a Disney cruise once in your life, twice in your life, fine, right? But what are you building? There's cheaper alternatives, right, to cruises, as I mentioned before. And I've gone on a few cruises myself, right? Could you say it's maybe on the same level as, hey, going, doing this Disney stuff? I can't really say that, right? But you're going to have kind of the same benefits. Yeah, you don't see all the Disney characters or whatever, but unlimited buffet, your room service, going to a new place, For me, going on a cruise is more about just being with my family, right? For example, we're going to be going on a cruise soon. My wife, first time going on a cruise. So we're excited for that, right? But it would be less exciting if, hey, I've been on a cruise 5 times already. Let's go again. you know? So that's kind of where I'm at with that. We'll watch the rest of the video through, but as far as him equating social media and all this other stuff to, you know, these individuals that go to Disneyland, I'm sorry, I'm not behind that. I don't see that.
Activity starts to feel like too much effort. Disney has been pioneering this model for 100 years, targeting psychological engineering at children, building an empire driven by profit extraction at a level that puts people into more debt than substance abuse, brainwashing you since you're a child to always stay a lifelong Disney consumer. And the greatest trick they played was making the fake world feel like enough, making the fake experience feel like a life. That's what makes the cave feel so complete that the prisoners never even think to look for the door. But don't be fooled into thinking this is some far-flung issue situated inside a theme park in Florida. You might find yourself or someone you know sitting right there with them, watching the shadows dancing on the wall.
Yeah. So, again, right, talking about Disney pulling money from you, you don't see people going into debt over social media. You just don't see it, right? You might have people spending, you know, a bunch of time.
And thanks to story,
you might see people spending a lot of time on social media, but you just don't have it where, you know, these individuals are, you know, just a bunch of debt, right?
Walk around.
So that's where I just disagree, I guess, with the end of that video, equating it to everybody that ever exists being in some kind of trap like Disneyland. To me, it's just not valid. But that's where I'm going to leave it here for now, guys. I'm going to look into maybe make another video about social media, because I think that's a very valid topic we can talk about. I just don't agree with the end of this conclusion, equating social media's effects to Disneyland. I just don't see it. But yeah, that's where we are for now. Thank you so much for watching. And if you happen to watch to the end of this video, I know it's quite long, but if you happen to watch to the end of this video, please subscribe, give a like, follow, etc., etc. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.